Good afternoon, and thank you for joining me, Glenn Rashipora, on NMH at 1, where we highlight the news making waves in Namibia and beyond, ranging from current affairs, community stories, sports, and economic news. Coming up in this broadcast, China accounts for nearly 30% of total foreign direct investment. Neighbours ready to battle border crimes, and PDM tired of men drinking too much. Do stay tuned for these and more on NMH at 1.
Voting now open. The Best of 061 Express Followers' Choice Awards. By voting, you stand a chance to win your share of 50,000 Namibian dollars in cash. From the 4th to the 23rd of June 2024. Do you know the best of the best in Windhoek? It's time to recognize them. Living in Windhoek, DIY home improvement. Glam it up, eating out, food, drinks, and be merry. Services, automotive, shopping, babies and kids, and travel and leisure. To vote, save the number 085 785 6231 and WhatsApp hashtag 061 Express or scan the QR code.
In our midday news update, at the World Innovation Property Day held at NAST HTTPS building in Windhoek, Luan Africa, a technology transfer specialist from the University of Western Cape, emphasized the importance of commercializing agri-biotechnologies. He stated collaboration between universities and industries is essential to broaden the impact of these technologies and address challenges within university ecosystems. Philippus Joseph reports.
In the agrochemical industry or in the biomedical industry, one company can get rights to commercialize the biomedical side of things, and a different company can get the rights to commercialize something in the agrochemical space. So you can actually sort of ring fence certain parts of the IP or certain applications. So it kind of broadens the impact of the technology at the end of the day. And then university industry collaborations are extremely important. I cannot stress this more. So we actively try to get industries to find out more about what's going on within the university ecosystems. A lot of our researchers already have very strong links with industry. I mean, they know the state of the art. They know exactly.
Visual News highlights local stories from across Namibia. On the other side of the break, we get into that. Getting into our visual news, Executive Director of the Ministry of Health and Social Services, Ben Ngombe, explains in short some of the challenges experienced in the procurement of pharmaceuticals for the public health sector. Leandria Mower gave this video.
Really, the issue of the procurement of pharmaceuticals for the public health sector has been a challenge. We have seen situations where, when efforts were made to put in place long-term contracts for the procurement of medicines, this has not achieved the required results because in many cases the processes were disrupted by court challenges, for example. For example, one example is the contract that we initiated in 2018, which could not be finalized until 2024. That means during that time, the ministry had to engage in what is called emergency procurement or buyouts, and these are very costly procedures. So we need to find ways and means in which we can procure medicines that are sufficient for the country and in order to deal and address the stock outs that we have been experiencing over the years. So we have been directed to look at various options including the procurement of pharmaceuticals directly from the manufacturers. We are engaging with different countries to see how this can be brought about.
The Namibia Correctional Service held an information sharing conference today at the Namibia Correctional Service headquarters in Windhoek to address questions and concerns about the recent presidential pardoning of certain inmates. Deputy Commissioner General of the Namibia Correctional Service, Sam Shalulange, clarified that offenders convicted of serious crimes such as treason, murder, rape, and drug-related offenses were not considered for pardoning. Rita Kakelo reports.
As we were saying, the following sentenced inmates are recommended for pardon with immediate effect from the effective date. Those serving sentences of imprisonment for non-scheduled offences. Now we have also indicated initially which are scheduled offences, and then the rest are then the non-scheduled. For instance, the scheduled offences, as we indicated, are sentences. Offenses like, for instance, murder, rape, treason, assault with dangerous wound, when a dangerous wound is inflicted, robbery, some offenses under the Nature Conservation Ordinance, offenses under the Controlled Wildlife Products and Trade, illicit dealing in or smuggling of ammunition, firearms, offenses relating to money laundering. You know, those are some of the offenses that we refer to as scheduled offenses. Mm-hmm. And so when we now came up with the categories, we mentioned to say those serving sentences of imprisonment for non-scheduled offenses, meaning that the offenses that were not listed here under, whose conditional release on full parole has been approved before or on 21 March 2024. And I think we just have to make.
That concludes our visual news. After the break, the Namibian Sun leads us into the newspaper review segment. Getting into our newspaper review, starting off with the Namibian Sun's front page, which reports that a purchase agreement between Dundee Precious Metals and China's Sinomine Resources Group for the ownership of a copper smelter in Tsumeb is once again in the spotlight after business people in the town have demanded a share of the proceeds. The Namibian Competition Commission has yet to approve the sale transaction. The Tsumeb Business Consortium has approached the Commission and has insisted that the outstanding issues be addressed before Dundee is allowed to leave Namibia. In a letter, the consortium CEO and former Member of Parliament Angel Nawatisep demanded that the government hold Dundee liable for environmental damage, especially for the fact that arsenic is still stored on the smelter's premises. On page 3, the Ofu-Nduhia constituency offices plan to host a belated Independence Day celebration on the 6th of July, nearly 4 months after the national event was commemorated countrywide. Has been slammed by some as mere electioneering by ruling party officials in the region. The event, which was initially scheduled to take place in April, was postponed to this Saturday at Ndimana village. However, a letter seen by Namibian Sun dated the 11th of June indicated that it has again been postponed to the 6th of July. According to a circulated draft program, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Works and Transport John Mutora is expected to deliver the keynote address. Since an invitation for the belated event has been doing the rounds on social media, critics have raised concerns about why it is being held almost 4 months after the 21st of March. On the front page of the Republican, following a presidential pardon and reprieve proclamation by President Nangola Mbumba, over 2,000 inmates will be set free. In a statement, Namibia Correctional Service Commissioner General Raphael Hamoniela announced that 313 inmates in correctional facilities will be pardoned, while 1,108 will be released on reprieve. Now, according to the Office of the Judiciary, a pardon sees an inmate being forgiven for a crime, thereby removing any remaining penalties or punishments associated with that crime. Meanwhile, a reprieve is a temporary suspension of the execution of a sentence. It does not nullify the conviction or the sentence, but merely postpones its implementation. A total of 709 inmates on community supervision will be pardoned, while 98 will be sent home on reprieve. On page 3, half of Namibians do not have access to power, with approximately 70% of urban residents who can turn on the lights at home compared to 20% to 25% of rural residents. This is according to the Executive Director of Mines and Energy, Penda Ithindi. Moving on to the Alga Manazaiting's front page, Namibia and Recon Africa are still not bothered by UNESCO complaints. The company is now drilling at Neighbours after being able to raise capital. However, a portion has already been paid out to settle class action lawsuits. Meanwhile, Seoul is approaching Canadian authorities with a complaint. That is what Algemene Zeitung in today's publication reports. It is opening. Now, on its website, the news platform Xizon reports that the Canadian gas and oil exploration company Reconnaissance Energy Africa, Recon Africa, will now move its drilling rig 80 kilometers to Neighbours, about 25 kilometers southwest of Nkute, after successful maintenance. Now on page 3, the Algemene Zeitung is attending to the possible sale of the Tsumeb copper smelter by Dundee Precious Metals to a major Chinese company, where many questions about profit sharing and environmental pollution still seem to be unanswered. Residents are demanding clarity. The purchase agreement between Dundee Precious Metals and the Chinese Sino Mine Resource Group is once again in the spotlight after business people demanded a share of the company's proceeds. The Namibian Competition Commission has yet to approve the sale transaction. The Tsumeb consortium of companies has approached the Commission and insists that the outstanding issues must be resolved before Dundee is allowed to leave Namibia. Now, on the other side of the break, we continue with our newspaper review, starting off with the Namibian.
The Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Tourism, in collaboration with the Namibia Tourism Board and the Ondonga Traditional Authority, will be hosting the Itotha Carnival at the Kangonde Sotpan in the Oshikoto region from 27 June to 1st July 2024. Expect a fun-filled weekend including traditional dishes, cookout competitions, totem parades, traditional games, horse riding, skydiving and quad biking. Accommodation facilities will be available at cost. The Itotha Carnival, celebrating our ancient heritage.
Still with our newspaper review, the Namibian reports that Popular Democratic Movement Vice President Jennifer van den Heever last week tabled a motion in Parliament seeking the establishment of more state-owned alcohol and drug rehabilitation centers in every region to save men from drinking too much. The motion is aimed at addressing the accessibility of alcohol and drug rehabilitation centers in the country, as well as highlighting the dangers of alcohol and drug abuse and ensuring addicts get help. On page 3, independent presidential candidates have accused the Electoral Commission of Namibia of being incompetent due to the slow process of registration and insufficient public information. Independent presidential candidate Rosa Namises says after 4 days of attempting to be registered as a voter in the upcoming presidential and National Assembly elections, she has not succeeded. She says she has tried to register at the Cathedral Community Hall, Bethel Church, and a registration point at Dolam in Windhoek. The New Era's lead story reports that Namibia and Botswana have jointly agreed to educate and sensitize their residents about all aspects of border-related criminal activities. This intervention is contained in a detailed civil-military cooperation plan jointly launched by the defense ministers of the two countries on Tuesday in Kasane, Botswana. The same exercise will be launched in Katima-Mulilo today to give more information regarding the operation of the plan. On page 3, Information Minister Emma Teopheles strongly encouraged mobile users to register their SIM cards to avoid losing their phone numbers. The minister made this call in a ministerial statement in the National Assembly on Tuesday. As part of the regulations, mobile users were given a grace period to register their SIM cards. Despite the temporary disconnections between April and June 2024, mobile users who have not yet registered have until the 30th of June 2024 to do so, or they risk having their numbers permanently cancelled. If a number is cancelled, mobile operators will resell it and the new user will be required to register their SIM card. The Market Watch reports that the government's borrowing strategy for the 2024-2025 financial year aims to limit Namibia's exposure to foreign exchange risk while addressing the country's financial shortfalls. The financial year 2024-2025 borrowing strategy summary released by the Bank of Namibia outlines a net financing need of $15.3 billion for the financial year, including a significant Eurobond maturing in October 2025. The Bank of Namibia plans to source funds primarily through local government debt securities and external debt financing, Samini Storm said in its fixed income report for May. Namibian fishing sector launches Africa's first ocean cluster. An update on this coming up right after this. Getting into our economic news, the Property Practitioners Bill has been officially tabled in the Namibian Parliament, aiming to modernize and regulate the country's property industry. The bill seeks to replace the Estate Agents Act of 1976 to establish the Property Practitioners Regulatory Authority and enhance consumer protection across the property sector. The Minister of Industrialization and Trade, Lucia Ipumbu, said the legislation intends to widen the scope of agency services, improve governance, and safeguard consumer interest in property transactions. She emphasized that the bill addresses current limitations and aligns with global standards, ensuring that Namibia's property sector remains competitive and fair. The Property Practitioners Bill includes key stakeholders that have a role to play in the property industry, encompassing not only estate agents but also property developers, auctioneers, and property managers, Ipumbu explained. Now, she said this inclusive approach aims to regulate the entire spectrum of property practitioners, thereby enhancing accountability and service quality. We'll now take a look at our economic indicators. The Namibian dollar trades against the British pound at 23.42, against the euro at 19.83, against the US dollar at 18.36. 2 Namibian dollars and 53 cents gets you 1 Chinese yuan. On the Namibia Stock Exchange, Namibia Breweries Limited went up at 0.03%. Lejeho Holdings Namibia Limited also went up at 2.50%, while First Rand Namibia Limited went down at 0.50%. The remaining stock remained unchanged. On the commodities market, gold, platinum, and Brent crude oil went down while copper went up. Brent crude oil trading at 0.87%, going for $82 and 1 cent per barrel. Overall index went down at 0.05%, while the local index went up at 0.12%. We return with news from Africa.
Welcome to My.NA Cars, your ultimate destination for everything automotive.
I am your host, Diana Master.
Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Discover the latest models, innovative technologies, and expert insights from our passionate hosts. Learn essential maintenance tips and get exclusive behind-the-scenes access to the automotive industry. Don't miss My.NA Cars on NTV every Thursday at 2100 hours. Tune in and ignite your passion for automobile.
In our news from the continent, the leader of South Africa Inkatha Freedom Party says his party has agreed to form part of a government of national unity that includes the African National Congress and the biggest opposition party, the Democratic Alliance. Velankosini Halabasi told reporters at a media briefing in Durban on Wednesday the only options were to become part of the government or part of the opposition. The people of South Africa who voted said that political parties must find a common ground, Hlabasi said. Now, South Africans have been eagerly waiting to know who would form the next government after the ANC lost its majority in last month's elections. This is the first official indication that a government of national unity has been agreed upon, although the DA and ANC have not yet commented. The ANC has previously said it wanted to form a unity government and had engaged with all of the country's opposition parties. The new parliament is due to be sworn in on Friday after the country's top court dismissed a bid by former President Jacob Zuma's party, MK, to stop its sitting. This is when the parliament is expected to elect a president, so the ANC would hope to have agreed on a deal by then. It insists that Cyril Ramaphosa must remain the country's leader. After this short break, we'll be getting into our international news. The changes that Hamas has requested to a ceasefire proposal by the United States are not significant and include the complete withdrawal of Israeli troops from the Gaza Strip, a senior leader in the group told Reuters. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said on Wednesday that Hamas had proposed numerous changes, some unworkable, to the U.S.-backed proposal, but that mediators were determined to close the gaps. The U.S. has said Israel has accepted its proposal, but Israel has not publicly stated that. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has repeatedly said Israel will not commit to ending its campaign before Hamas is eliminated. The senior Hamas leader said his organization had demanded to choose a list of 100 Palestinians with long sentences to be released from Israeli jails. The Israeli document had excluded 100 prisoners with long sentences and restricted releases to only prisoners with sentences of less than 15 years remaining, the Hamas official said. There are no significant amendments that, according to Hamas leadership, warrant objection, said the Hamas leader. The group's demands also include the reconstruction of Gaza, the lifting of the blockade, including opening border crossings, allowing the movement of people and transporting goods without restrictions, the senior Hamas leader said. Now, after the break, we'll be getting into our local sports news. To stay tuned for that. Getting right into our local sports news, the Namibia School Sport Union has come under fire from a group of concerned parents calling on the Ministry of Sport, Youth and National Services, Agnes Shongarero, to launch a thorough investigation into school netball. The Ongwediva Town Council has commenced the construction of a multi-sport complex valued at $5 million Namibian. The project marks a pivotal moment in the town's development and commitment to enhancing recreational opportunities for its residents and visitors alike, says Ongwediva acting spokesperson Penda Kashikakwamwa. He says the first phase of the project is slated for completion by November. Cyclists Kevin Lau and Mimi Hugh produced stunning masterpiece rides to win the Nedbank Rock and Rat XC2 races at the IJG trials in Windhoek last weekend. In the elite men's category, Lau beat Tiens van der Westhuizen and Adrian Key to win the race in 1 hour, 7 minutes and 11 seconds. Van der Westhuizen clocked 1 hour, 9 minutes and 11 seconds in second place, while Key was third in 1 hour, 13 minutes and 24 seconds. We now take a look at our international sports news. The Springboks may have their double World Cup winning wing Cheslin Kolbe available to play in the first of the two tests against Ireland. Kolbe was withdrawn from the Boks squad earlier in the week as he had a slight knee niggle. He had picked up playing club rugby in Japan and went for a specialist opinion. Sheriff and Rutherford rescued the West Indies with a bat, and their bowlers contained New Zealand to complete a 13-run victory in a Group C match of the T20 World Cup in Trinidad on Wednesday. FIFPro has started legal action against World Soccer's governing body, FIFA, over the expanded Men's Club World Cup, the Global Players Union said on Thursday. FIFA said in May it would not consider rescheduling its 32-team Club World Cup set for June 15th to July 13th next year. after FIFPro and the World Leagues Association threatened legal action if it did not review the plans. We'll return with the highlights from today's broadcast.
Hello and welcome to today's Sports Rep Show.
I am your host, Jesse Jackson Kauraifa. In replay, Namibia, who had won the toss for the first time on this tour.
Good day everyone, time for international sports news, starting off with tennis news, both on the WTA for women's and
You're still watching NMH at 1, and if you have just joined us, here are the highlights from today's broadcast. The changes that Hamas has requested to a ceasefire proposal by the United States are not significant and include the complete withdrawal of Israeli troops from the Gaza Strip, a senior leader in the group told Reuters. The Namibia School Sport Union has come under fire from a group of concerned parents calling on the Minister of Sport, Youth and National Services, Agnes Shongarero, to launch a thorough investigation into school netball. And those have been your highlights. Remember to tune in every weekday at 1 p.m. to spend your lunch hour with NMH at 1, catching up on the latest news in Namibia and beyond. From me, Glenn Rashipura, until next time.